Alright, let's start with this Parajal Ramada. First step is obviously try to get rid of as much of this wild grapevine as you can. Almost seems like it doesn't matter how much you get rid of, it will come back from the roots. But at least I can say I tried for now. Alright. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this one-handed, but I got to get it out of the first bucket here. Hold on, I'm going to have to pause this. Alright, so it is out. There's the top bucket. Here's the bottom bucket. Bottom bucket is actually in better shape, but you can see it's still starting to fall apart from the sun, so time to get rid of it. The nice thing about these Lowe's buckets, similar to these buckets, is they have this lip, so they actually sit inside of each other, and there's this much space left once they're sitting there. That'll be your water reservoir. So you can see the bottom bucket. Where is it? You need to drill a hole. So you're going to want to make sure that that hole is further up from the bottom than this lip here is thick. And that'll be your water reservoir from there up. Keep these guys nice and watered throughout the summer. Alright, now for the sad part of this. We've got to remove this root base here because we will never get it back up through the holes. You can see the holes there. We'll never get it back up through those holes. So we just got to go through here and cut it all off. Alright, I've got this pretty cleaned up. You can see this is the water fill tube that goes down into the base. I'm not even sure I'm going to bother putting the water tube through the top bucket anymore. If you just put it down to the base of the bucket, you know, the water is obviously going to drain down into the bottom bucket. This here is needed. This is the ring that allows you to put soil, you can see it's filled with soil, between the top bucket and the bottom bucket, and that's what acts as your wick. You don't necessarily want to rely on these roots coming down into the water bucket. It's okay if they do, but what you really want is this soil, when it's like this, to actually siphon the water up into the main one to keep the main one, the top bucket, moist. So I should be able to get the tree out now. And the tree is giving me a little resistance, so time to give it a little love. Okay, I feel better. How about you? Now, it wasn't really to break up the bucket as much as it was to hopefully loosen the roots from the side of it. Let's give it a go. Alright, you can see after that little bit of love, it's a lot easier with two hands, but it is coming out. There we go. And you can see here's my root ball. It's definitely a little root bound, so I will go through and just scrape these up a little bit. Let me show you here. Just taking my clippers, just gonna go through here and just gore some lines in. That'll loosen up these roots a bit. And I might even take a little bit off the bottom for when I put it into the new bucket so that I can put some fresh soil. Now, a Sawzall will probably make easier work of this, to be honest with you. Just go through and cut it like a Christmas ham or Easter ham or whenever you like ham. But I'm just gonna do this and cut off this bottom ring of roots. So I'll finish this up here. Alright, I've got this corrugated pipe piece in the middle. It's windy as could be here today, but I just want to get a couple of marks just so I know where to cut. And boy, this would be a lot easier if the wind wasn't blowing. Probably could have brought it inside to do it, but how fun would that be? And it doesn't need to be exact. Just need to get some marks down to know how big of a circle to cut. So I drilled the starter hole using my DeWalt drill. I'm going to try this guy to cut the circle out. I've used a razor blade before, saw. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can use. It's not complicated, but I'm going to give this guy a go. Alright, well that worked. It's not the tool I would recommend. It was a bit sketchy at times, and you can see it didn't do a great job. Now if I can find where that piece of corrugated tube blew to. Alright, let's just see if it fits. Alright, it'll fit. And that's really all you need. Alright, next step, let me get the other... Oh, I'm going to drill a couple holes around the outside of this just as weep holes. Alright, don't worry too much about the size. Just want them small enough to where you don't lose soil through them, but big enough to where it's not going to get blocked by a piece of mulch. Alright, and that's it. Alright, and like I said before, you want your weep hole in the bottom bucket to be higher than this lip on the other bucket. So you can see the lips are right about here. I'm going to go up just a little bit from there, and I can get the bucket to stay straight, put in my weep hole, and that'll make sure that any excess water comes out and doesn't fill the bucket the whole way and rot your roots. Okay, I've got both buckets put together. You can see my weep hole. Important that you see plastic from the other bucket. If you see just an opening there, that means your weep hole is too low and it's below the height of your next bucket. Inside, the corrugated tube has been placed in, and you want to make sure that that corrugated tube is higher than the height of your top bucket when it's sitting together, which this one is. Now I'm gonna fill this with a little bit of dirt. I used to put in fabric in here just to keep the dirt held in so that it doesn't wash into the bottom bucket, but I really haven't seen a need to do it, to be honest with you. So I'm just gonna put a little dirt in and then put the tree in. Okay, a little bit of basic potting mix in there. Time to give it a test fit. All right, so you can see it's a little higher than the pot. You could either take out some potting mix, or what I'm actually going to do is trim down the root ball a little bit. I'd like it to be about an inch lower than the top of that bucket so that I can put some mulch on it. So let's get started. All right, so I trimmed the bottom. You can see that, put it about even, and it will settle a little bit, but about even with the top. But what I want to do is trim some of these roots, these surface roots, so that I can add a little bit of mulch once it settles. So this will actually root prune the tree a little bit, as well as add some room for some mulch to go in here. And if it ends up settling a little bit once I water it, I'll actually add a little more potting mix around the outside and then just mulch on the top. So let me go ahead and clean this up. Okay, the tree is good to go. I unfortunately didn't notice the water pipe was scraping the tree when I put it in. It'll be okay though. I could wrap it with parafilm if I wanted to, but it should heal over pretty quick. I am going to put some pine bark mulch on the top of this. Just remember, always use pine bark with a fig tree. Some of the other mulches will actually cause some harm or not let your fig trees grow quite as well. All right, let me get this put in. I started to mulch and I almost forgot. I need to put some slow release fertilizer in here. Don't want to do it after it gets mulched because it'll just blow off in this wind probably. So I'm going to put quite a bit in here because this is a large tree in a small pot. So 3 scoops should be enough to get it started for the spring here. Go in here, rough it up a little bit, get it worked in, make sure it doesn't all fall out as I carry it to the backyard. A little more mulch will go on top here, and then I'll water it in. All right, mulched. Go ahead and water it in. Hopefully keep some of the mulch from coming off as I move it to the backyard. Water timer went off, but that should be good enough. All right, excuse the wind, but the tree is safely in its pot. Got the irrigation dripper tucked away in it nicely. And she should be good to go for the summer.